Okay, we're going to call the meeting. Can we please stand for the pledge? Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to do roll call.
I'll start, I guess.
Maureen Jimenez.
Hi, Megan Levine.
Ann Markoulis.
Maria Venuto.
Brett Miller.
Leah Leone.
Angela Ramo is absent. Okay, so we're going to start off with the minutes. Yes. Okay, so we're going to start off with the approval of the minutes for July 23rd. Can I have a motion? Maria and Brett? Any comments or questions? Okay, all in favor? Okay, 5. I have to abstain because I was absent. Okay, for the minutes for July 25th, can I have a motion? Megan and Leah? Any comments or questions? All in favor? 4. Maureen is 2 abstentions, Maureen and myself. Okay. And on to committee report, audit.
Our external auditors, O'Connor Davies, were on site last week conducting the end-of-the-year audit. They will continue to review the requested documentation over the next few weeks when they finalize the financial statements. And I'll have an update when they're finished, as soon as they are.
Perfect, thank you. Policy?
The Policy Committee met yesterday. We met and will be bringing forward 2 first reads at the next Board of Education meeting. One is going to be regarding board meeting procedures to ensure alignment with current board practices. Another will be reviewing a proposal on class weightings in light of our expanding dual enrollment opportunities. Both policies will be presented as first reads to allow for further discussion and input. The committee also finalized its meeting schedule for the year, which is now available on the district website, along with a list of policies that we have slated for review. Among these is the district's grading policy, where the curriculum office is going to be leading the grading advisory team in reviewing guidance on potential adjustments, which will be shared with the policy committee. In addition, the committee discussed collaborating with high school stakeholders on a regulation to the newly proposed policy, which establishes student board members being elected by the student body. So the purpose of the regulation would to help provide further information as to the procedures associated with such. At this time, the district is in good standing with all state required policy updates, including those on the student board member, personal devices, and extreme heat. Each of these had required policy adoptions throughout the summer, which we met and have done so.
Thank you, Mrs. DiNapoli. Education?
Thank you. The Education Committee met this afternoon, in fact. Topics of discussion included a review of the 2025 Summer Leadership Retreat, including adjustments to our plans, including district focus areas, building walkthroughs, observation look-fors, and a preview of the Superintendent Conference Day upcoming in both August and November. We also discussed intervisitation procedures, as well as the general plan for the district in-service plan for the 2025-26 school year. Furthermore, we discussed the overall instructional support plan for the year. As Mr. DiNapoli said for Policy Committee, the agenda items for further meetings are posted on the district website, and they're publicly available for review.
Thank you, Mr. Klasky. And facilities report.
In the high school science labs, the floor installation is now complete. Casework installation is in process, and the vendor is going to be working through Sunday to get the rest of the cabinets and desks installed. Ceiling grid installation is complete, and 8 of the rooms have ceiling tiles installed. And we have a short video of one of the rooms. Then in the cafeteria, the plumbing for the serving lines has been completed and the concrete slabs have been poured. The new wall in the kitchen has been framed, and sheetrock is currently underway. Tile work has begun on the TV walls, and ceiling grid installation and exterior demo have begun.
Ms. Cahan, if I may, so this was just taken maybe a day ago, and then this is to speak to the tile work that was done?
Right. So that the black column there is the TV wall, where they'll have a wall that will be used to display goings-on for the school and menus and everything that they can put through there. In the first floor bathrooms, the rough plumbing is complete and framing has commenced. Ceramic tile installation will start this week. The removal of the high school and middle school gym floors is currently underway. The middle school removal should be complete by the end of next week, and the installation of the new floor should start on September 2nd. The tentative completion date is September 22nd. At the high school, the removal should be complete by the end of this week, and the installation of the new floor should start on Monday. The tentative completion date is September 15th. The curtain wall at the high school is now complete, including new air conditioners. Shades were delivered this week, and their installation and the final cleanup will be finished by the end of next week. At Landing, blackout shades have been installed on the doors and vision panels in the new classrooms, and installation of new cameras in the addition will be finished this week. At Gribben, we had a new drywall installed at the rear of the building, and a sinkhole in the front field has now been filled. And then in the Daisy extension, the new office and closets in the new area of the old building have been framed and drywalled, and painting is underway. The exterior brickwork has been completed, and most of the scaffolding has been removed. Concrete sidewalks and asphalt paving will be complete by the end of next week. So this was actually taken today. And that's the facilities report.
Thank you, Ms. Cahan. It's very exciting to see all of this work come together. So thank you very much for all of your work. Next, our superintendent report.
Thank you. So I'll begin my superintendent's report by going over the questions that were asked at the last meeting. We will present all of the answers here and review them right now. Just so everybody knows, we have been sticking to our protocols and our policy that our public comment time is a public comment and it's not a question and answer. So all of the questions that are asked, we will refer to them at a future meeting so that they're all here, they're preserved, and they're recorded for future meetings as well. And if there's a question that the public needs to be answered immediately, we will refer that person to speak with an administrator the next day. So these were the questions that were asked at the last meeting. One of the questions that came up was, we have spoken about this before in the past, whether it is faster to call 911 or whether we should call the local police number. And I discussed this with Chief Whitten and Deputy Chief Ortiz on August 5th. They will schedule a presentation in the fall. We're going to invite the GCPD to share the topic with the community because we want the community to hear directly from the police department so that there is no misunderstanding about what's the best practice. The swim program was also brought up. We are actively researching this topic, and we are planning to present it at a future meeting. We actually have Mr. Klatsky looking into that and looking at what is being done in other districts and what is the best practice. A question was asked about installing emergency call stations. We have contracted with a new security consultant through Altaris, and we are working with that individual to look at what this would look like going forward, and then also we will have to make sure that it is sustainable within our budget. A question was asked by the Glen Cove City Teachers Association Union President. One of the questions was whether extreme heat days, if you leave early because the heat is so intense that it reaches over the 88 degrees, whether that would count for as a half day. So I just wanted to give a detailed explanation for how time is calculated in school districts so everybody has the information. So back in 2018, New York State got rid of seat time. Instead, we look at a 180-day calendar. So every school district must meet the 180 days minimum requirement. But in addition to that, we also have to meet hourly requirements. So the hourly requirements are broken down by grade band. Between kindergarten and sixth grade, you have to meet 900 hours of instruction. Between 7th and 12th grade, you have to meet 990 hours of instruction. So this has to be calculated to the minute. So for example, if you have passing time, if you have lunch time, all of that goes into a spreadsheet, and there's a calculation that is done to make sure that we are. So a half day would count towards our total 180 days of instruction, but would lessen our total hours. So we always have to be very aware of how many half days we are taking, how many snow days we build into the calendar, so that it doesn't impact our instructional days and our instructional hour totals. Another question that was related to the extreme heat policy was whether if we are reaching over 88 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the threshold when we have to move students from that area, if at that point we communicate that we moved students out of that area to families. The policy does not have this as a requirement, so we would move the students, we would do our due diligence to keep both our students and our staff safe, but we would not communicate that to the families. But we did have very good news, very positive news to share. Our facilities department was able to install air conditioning units in all the learning spaces at the 4 elementary schools. Those AC units were taken from the interior curtain wall at the high school. So they were repurposed so that every space that can have an AC unit, and I want to stress, the space has to have the capability to have the unit there. So it has to be wide enough and the unit has to fit, but every learning space that can have an AC was able to now have an AC, which is amazing. We were short by 8 units, which we were able to purchase to make sure that now all our elementary school spaces have an AC unit. So we wanted to share that with the community. A question that was also asked by the union president was the number of AEDs total for the district. So we are sharing that number. We have 33 total AEDs in the district. And now I will turn it over to Ms. Cahan so she can give the response to a question from a community member with regard to specifications, budget, and timeline for our projects. Ms. Cahan.
Thank you. So all of our contractors are following the specifications in the project plans that have been created by our architect. They are very detailed plans, and every item is followed and checked by not only our construction manager, but the architect and our director of facilities. We are monitoring the budget closely and currently are on track to stay within the contracted awarded amounts. As for the timeline, the science rooms will be open for students and staff on the first day of school. Some finishing touches will be completed on second shift after the school day ends. The work in the cafeteria has taken a little longer due to some unforeseen issues with the plumbing. The contractors are working double shifts to get the cafeterias open for the start of school, but the kitchen will not be open. Dr. Doshner and I have met with the Director of Food Service, the Director of Facilities, and the building principal, and we are developing a plan for the start of school that should be shared by the end of this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cahan. In addition to the updates that Ms. Cahan just shared on the construction projects at the high school, I also communicated these updates to the high school families today, as well as to our high school staff, so that everyone has the most up-to-date information that we received during our weekly construction meeting that we have on Tuesday. So we met yesterday, and the letter was provided to families and staff today. All right, moving on, I wanted to share some incredible pictures from our extended school year program. So last week was our last week of the extended school year, and they had a fun-filled week where they had a visit from the fire department. Students got to try on the equipment, they got to see the fire truck and experience that as well. They then had a visit from the Water Center where they got to see some specimens that were brought, and they had a lesson on marine science and conservation. This is a field trip that was organized for our middle school extended school year program. The students were able to go on a field trip to Vito's, and they got to prepare a pizza as a hands-on experience for them. And the younger students were still in the classroom, so they received the delivery of the pizza, which was very exciting as well. And finally, we had a visit from Horseability. They came with the miniature horses, and our students had a chance to pet them, to interact with them, and to also speak with the animal handlers who were on site to explain to the students more about the miniature horses. It was a very exciting culmination of our extended school year program. It's the second year that our district has this program for our K through 8 students who qualify. Our literacy attestation, we have to make sure to provide the literacy attestation by September 1st. Every district in New York State has to make sure that this is approved in the portal, the New York State portal. So we have done a very extensive review to make sure that we have looked at all of our curriculum and that we are meeting best practices that have been put forth by New York State. This attestation is for pre-K through 3rd grade, so it's a very specific grade band. You can see here the timeline of what we have done. So we had a meeting May 2nd to begin initial discussions and the plan for what this was going to look like. We attended 2 days of PD, May 28th and June 16th, along with districts across Long Island. We continued work in early summer. This was led by Ms. Schaefer and the literacy coaches, Ms. Russo and Ms. Carfora. Then in the early summer, we brought our alignment teachers, which are teachers that are on each grade level that represent the rest of the grade team, and they work on English and literacy. We have this in every single subject in the district. They met together. They looked through all of our literacy work, and they were able to come up with a very comprehensive plan. We invited our representatives from our K through 2 PTAs who attended yesterday, and we had a small sharing of this work because we have to get all of this done by September 1st, so it's a very tight turnaround. And we are planning to do a larger presentation of our literacy attestation in the fall so that the information can be shared with the wider community as well. So this was from yesterday. I just wanted to inform everyone that our calendar is out. So it has gone to the printer, and it is also on the website. You can access it by going on the website, and I wanted to just highlight that this year we're very excited. The Board of Education had asked to include student work. So we have student work from our very talented artists. And I just wanted to make sure to give a shout out to all of our talented artists because it's incredible to see their work in a printed calendar, but also online. And the way you access the calendar is you go on the website and you click over here where it says calendar. And it brings you to the calendar, you click on the image, and that's how you access it online. And when you scroll down, I just want to highlight that the online calendar is the most up-to-date. We work very hard with our PTA council, with our teachers unit, with our administrators to make sure that everything is correct. But of course, we're all human, so we may make an error. If something has to be corrected, it will be corrected on the digital calendar as well. But look for the calendar in the mail soon. Finally, I just wanted to highlight a change that will be taking place this coming September. On July 10th, the Board of Education attended training that was done by NISBA. We had a trainer that came from Albany to train us. It was a 4-hour training. In the training, they shared with us the best practices that NISBA has in terms of guidance. So I wanted to just kind of explain the process. So Board of Education meetings, as you know, you're here tonight, are open meetings. But executive sessions are parts of the Board of Education meeting that is not open to the public. It's the time that the board has to discuss sensitive matters. So boards are allowed to enter into an executive session only to discuss sensitive topics. But the way they enter into executive session is they first have to give a motion to move into an executive session. The motion needs to identify the reason why the board needs to go into an executive session, and then the board votes to go into an executive session. The reason I'm sharing all of this with you now is we will have a change in the way that our board meetings are shown on the calendar, and I want it to be very clear with the community. So starting in 2025, 2026, so for the next board meeting, which happens to be on September 3rd, if there is a need for an executive session, the Board of Ed will convene here at the high school at 6 p.m. Our board president, and if she's not here, our board vice president will call the meeting to order. If there's a need to go into an executive session, there will be a vote to move into executive session. The Board of Education will then leave the auditorium, have the executive session, and come back at 7 p.m. to reconvene for a public session. So the way this shows up on the calendar is like this. If you go on the online calendar, it will say executive session, if anticipated, 6 p.m. Public session reconvenes at 7. And this is what happens when you click on it. It just expands it. This is how it will look on the paper calendar. Again, executive session, if anticipated, at 6 p.m., public session at 7 p.m. So if you want to come and observe us voting to go into exec session, you are more than welcome to be here at 6. We can live stream it, and then we will go to exec session. At 7, we will come back. You will see us go back on screen, and we will then enter into the public session. So I just wanted to highlight that in case people look at the calendar and are wondering why Board of Education meetings are listed a little bit differently. And that's the end of my superintendent's update.
Thank you, Dr. Dashna. Is there any questions from the board? No? Okay. So our student board member, Ryan Martino, he is on vacation, so he is not with us tonight. Before we go into our first public participation, I just would like to read to you our protocol, and our protocol is also behind us on the screen. So this is for agenda items only that we are going into the first public meeting. The first public participation. Public comment is limited to Glen Cove residents. Each speaker is granted 3 minutes. Ida does have a timer, and we'll give you a timer. It's okay, we'll get you one. Ida will be keeping a time limit. Also, all comments must be delivered in a respectful manner as we model respect for our students. Naming individuals, staff, students, and/or community members is strictly prohibited. Concerns regarding individual students or staff should be directed to building or central administration. The board is here to listen to your input and concerns. The public comment period is not a discussion or a Q&A session. Please do not expect an immediate response during the meeting. Questions and concerns may require research and consideration. If your comment or question is due for an immediate answer, you will receive an email within 24 to 48 hours. The board or appropriate staff member will follow up at the future meeting or at the appropriate time. Any additional communication that you need, you can email us at gcboe@glencoveschools.org or Dr. Dashna directly. So we will be going into our first public participation for agenda items only.
Janet Blatt, McGrady Street, Glen Cove. I was at the Tuesday night meeting last week, and running the meeting read the policy changes. And then, because I am who I am, I went home. The next day called up the Committee for Open Meeting Regulations of New York State, a part of the New York State Department of State, spoke to a lawyer, and asked a number of questions. The one I'm speaking to now is public comment limited to Glen Cove residents. I'm sure you've had legal advice on it. However, that committee, those lawyers, are the legal word. If you were sued, that would come into play. And I was told you must treat everyone who comes to this meeting, these meetings, equally. It doesn't matter where we live, whether we live locally or whether we live outside of the district. Therefore, when you add to our written public comment limiting it to only Glen Cove residents, you are outside of the law. That is a quote from the lawyer that I spoke to from that state committee, which was put together when this open meeting law was put into effect. That part of the open meeting law has not changed since it was put into effect. Now, it is also true that you can do whatever you please because there are no penalties. I've spoken about this before. That doesn't mean that you should not follow the law because you can get away with not following the law. You should follow the law. There are a number of different people who would come for very good reason, but it doesn't matter whether they have a good reason or not, but for good reason to speak at a board meeting. I'm not going to go into them now. You can figure it out or not. Who, when you deny them the right to speak, may well sue. It is also a fact that democracy, if you want people to demonstrate by speaking respectfully, to model what you want the students to see and learn, you should model the practice of democracy. Please reconsider that. First, because people have a right to speak. Even if you don't agree with them, I don't agree with them, nobody else in the room agrees with them. And the second thing is, you really need to consider it because you may well be sued because that's in your policy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Janet. Anybody else? Okay. We are going to go on to our instructional report.
Based on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve Agenda Item 7 on the instructional report, A, Committee on Special Education, B, Committee on Preschool Special Education, C, Readoption Code of Conduct, D, Readoption Counseling Plan, and E, Readoption Plan for Special Education.
Do I have a motion? Brett and Leah, any comments or questions? All in favor? 6. Business affairs?
Based on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve Agenda Item 8A, Finance, numbers 1 and 2.
Can I have a motion? Maureen and Megan, any comments or questions? All in favor? 6.
Based on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve Agenda Item 8B, Operations, numbers 1 through 14.
Can I get a motion? Maria and Leah, any comments or questions? All in favor? 6. Okay. If I may, please, I would like to thank the donation for the student footwear for our students. We truly appreciate the donations that do help our students. And Now on to personnel.
Based on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve agenda item 9A certified, 1 through 8 as amended.
Can I get a motion? Maria and Megan, any comments or questions? All in favor? 6.
Based on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve agenda item 9A certified, numbers 9 through 17.
Can I get a motion? Maureen and Brett, any comments or questions? All in favor? 6.
Based on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve agenda item 9B classified, numbers 1 through 3 as amended.
Can I get a motion? Maria and Brett, any comments or questions? All in favor? 6.
Based on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve agenda item 9B classified, numbers 4 through 10 as amended.
Can I get a motion? Maria and Megan, any comments or questions? All in favor? 6. I just would like to add, we appointed a volunteer coach, Mr. Nagel, for the middle school. I just really want to thank him for volunteering. I understand that he's been doing this for quite some time. So we truly, truly appreciate the volunteer hours that he's been giving us for many years, from what I understand. So thank you.
Mr. DiNapoli, if you are able to just indicate any of the individuals that just got appointed who are in attendance, I think some might be. I don't know them.
I do know one.
Okay.
I do know one.
Ms. Markoulis?
So tonight, we appointed Jessica Neisling as one of our teachers. I do have to congratulate. She went to Glen Cove School, so welcome. Welcome to your home district.
In Andrew's defense, he couldn't see her because somebody's sitting in front of him. So he knows who he hires.
Okay. Unfinished business. Policy number 8113. Mr. DiNapoli, would you like to speak upon that?
Sure. So tonight's policy is a second reading for being put forth for adoption. Just as a reminder for the context behind this policy, beginning September 1st, 2025, school districts and BOCES are required under education law to take specific actions on what are defined as extreme heat condition days. These are days when the temperature is in occupiable educational or support service spaces that are reaching 82 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, as well as additional steps and strategies for the district to take if such spaces reach 88 degrees. The second reading of this policy is an adoption to the steps and strategies that are outlined in the policy, and really follow a lot of the strategies that we have already been taking as a district prior to the adoption of this policy, and really just outlines and names the collaborative efforts between facilities, building administration, central administration in terms of responding to whenever we hit these thresholds in our instructional spaces.
Okay, so we are looking to adopt this this evening. So does anybody have any questions or comments on this policy? Okay. Can I get a motion? Leah and Brett, all in favor? 6. Okay, do we have any new business that we need to discuss? No? Okay, any board comments? No? Okay, Megan?
I had a couple of ideas. One is, I don't know if this will go under new business, but I'm putting it under board comments. And that is just that we approved the code of conduct for this year. And I guess just to indicate that I think it's, would be a positive move forward. And I know that we've shared that idea, and I think it will happen to revisit that code of conduct, perhaps for the following year and going forward, just to like, maybe incorporate some different ideology, maybe modernize it in certain ways that that needs to happen. So that's just something I wanted to just say publicly. I also, not for any, I think it was just an oversight. I don't know if you said where the donation is from, and it's from the YMCA. I just wanted to make sure that like everybody knew that they're generously donated some footwear to the students. And then I also wanted to add, I guess it was last week already, Dr. Doshner and I had a very productive meeting. So we are setting up this year, and you probably explain this better than I can, but the trustees will liaise between the district and the and certain community-based organizations in Glen Cove. So last week, Dr. Doshner and I met with FAME, which is the Friends of Art and Music Education for Glen Cove, and that's across the board, not just with FAME, but with all the community-based organizations to grow, a more meaningful and appropriate relationship between these organizations and the district. So we met with two representatives of FAME, one of whom was a graduate in 1987, now lives in Los Angeles, and it was just a really nice conversation. It was interesting to learn more about that organization. It's composed mostly of alumni who generously offer their time and resources to students in Glen Cove. They want to provide access to, as they put it, interesting people in the arts, whether it's on volunteer or work related. They want to, show students career and education opportunities that are out there that are difficult to understand and difficult to access. And, they explain they really fulfill a unique need that's not so much like curriculum-based, although it can be based in curriculum, but really connections with the outside art community. So it was a great conversation. I'm very excited to see how that partnership can grow and where it can go, and then hear about other meetings we'll have with other organizations going forward.
Thank you, Megan. And I do apologize. I'm sorry. I was reading off of the paper copy.
Yeah, that's
I wasn't reading off my computer, so thank you for that. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, so before we go into our public participation, I'm just going to reiterate, as you can see on the board behind us, this is for non-agenda items only. Please, if you can, public comment is limited to Glen Cove residents. Each speaker is granted 3 minutes. Ida does have the timer. All comments must be delivered in a respectful manner as we model respect to our students. Naming individuals, staff, students, and/or community members is strictly prohibited. Concerns regarding individual students or staff should be directed to building or central administration. The board is here to listen to your input and concerns. The public comment period is not a discussion or a Q&A session. Please do not expect an immediate response during the meeting. Questions and concerns may require research and consideration. The board or appropriate staff member will follow up at a future meeting or at the appropriate time. And as stated before, if an answer is needed immediately, you will be getting an email between 24 and 48 hours. So this public participation are non-agenda items. And if anybody has any comments, can come up to the podium.
Janet Blatt, McGrady Street, Glen Cove. I'd like to add something because I learned it after when I spoke on Tuesday night about the contamination in the 2 gyms in the district and what was going on. I had a conversation with a neighbor, and she was talking about how long they vented her house when she had the top surface put on the wooden floors in her house. Now granted, that's much smaller than even the smallest gym. I then did some more reading. There's not that much available, really, at least from what I could find, on what you have decided to use. What I learned, though, is that although this flooring surface, when it dries, when it cures, is now considered safe, one has to wonder about that because of the world we live in and what people find and then report about what's safe and what's not safe. The one thing that I read that interested me was that it was recommended that for this particular surface that you are using, that it would be best, and you should be looking at what is best, because, as I said, these chemicals are around, kids breathe them, the adults breathe them, not good. But you do the best you can, and the best would be, from what I read, 30 days of venting once the floor is cured, dried. Now that would delay the use of the gym in the middle school and the high school for the kids, but it would be better to delay the use of the new floors than to put our children and our teachers into a space that isn't vented to the best of what can be now. There didn't seem to be anything that said it would be better to vent more than 30 days. 30 days seems to be the current guideline that I found online. And I looked around to find more. I didn't find any more. So if you'd please look into that, because I mean, you can't help what somebody's going to say about this flooring a month down the line, 10 years down the line. We can't help that. We can only do, you can only do the very best that you can do. So closing off exposure into other rooms, hallways, whatever, that the gym's allowed into, and venting for 30 days. Please look into it.
Thank you, Janet. Anybody else? Any comments? Okay. Can we get a motion to adjourn? Leah and Maria, all in favor? 6. Thank you, everybody, for coming this evening. Thank you to GCTV, and enjoy the rest of your summer. Thank you.